Hello, students. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed the sunshine. I'm here to talk to you about the week of May 11th through 15th. We'll be looking at democracy. You're going to read through the description of democracy in this PowerPoint and watch the screencast. You're going to reflect on the possible advantages and disadvantages of a democratic government. You're going to put your knowledge to the test by taking a democracy Quizlet, and you're going to apply your knowledge. What type of a power structure is the USA? Submitted in this week's discussion post. Do you have to take notes? Yes, it's a good idea. You don't have to, but I think it would be a good idea. What if I finish this super fast and get bored? I have an awesome activity this week for you where you're going to look at the three main power structures and apply them to your household. I'm really curious what you're going to come up with. All right, let's get started. First, democracy. The word democracy comes from the Greek demos, meaning common people, and kratos, rule or command. So put together, the literal meaning of democracy is rule by the people. Here you can see an image of the five nations, the Iroquois, located in the northeastern United States. Typically we think about democracy as something that came out of Greece and Athens, but it also was right here in North America. And so the tribes in the Northeast had a confederacy where they used democratic principles and ideas. And in many ways, our founders were influenced by the Iroquois. In its essence, democracy is the belief that humans are fundamentally equal and ought to be allowed to manage their collective affairs in an egalitarian or equal fashion. Key elements for democracy: popular sovereignty, the belief that the people have the right to make decisions themselves. Other things to know: free and fair processes, the ability to discuss, make, and change decisions through unrestricted and impartial processes such as elections. Active participation, the active participation of the people. And rights and liberties, the protection of the rights of all people to ensure equal participation. These are all important elements when we think about democracy, okay? The belief that all people have the right to make a decision, that there's free and fair processes, there's active participation in government and in the election of people, if it's a representative, or in the direct democracy, which we'll talk about shortly, and your rights and liberties, right? That we all have equal rights and liberties to participate. Two types of democracies. Democracies have two general structures that determine how decisions are made. So direct democracy is where the people govern themselves by deciding issues directly. Or representative democracy, where people elect others to represent them and make decisions for them. This is also called a republic. So you can kind of see in that, and then also lastly, in a theoretical democracy, all citizens have a voice in decision making. However, the process of how these decisions are made vary. So just thinking about that, if you look at both of these, you can kind of see ruled by the common people. In direct democracy, everyone votes or decides, whereas in a republic or representative democracy, they elect leaders to make the decisions. And you can see also this shows you the difference. Decisions in democracies may be made by consensus, majority rule, or proportional representation. What are those? So, this looks confusing. Don't worry. Let's take a quick, brief look at this. Direct democracy is where the people govern themselves by deciding issues. So the two ways that people in a direct democracy can make decisions are either by consensus. This requires that a group reach a decision which has been agreed on by all members of the society. For the decision to be fully supported, it is necessary that all members participate in the process, including those with minority opinions. Consensus requires group members to share ideas and engage in a dialogue to increase understandings of issues and to provide reasoning to choose a particular position. The community has to create and maintain a respectful dialogue and healthy exchange of ideas, whereas majority rule holds that the decision of the group is decided according to whom or what receives a majority, right? Either consensus or majority in a direct democracy. Well, if we were to do a representative democracy, these are the different ways that it can be carried out, either through consensus, as we just discussed, a majority rule, or proportional representation. This is used when more than two choices exist. Proportional representation divides up the results of an election based on the proportion of votes an individual party or issue receives. For example, there's a representative election to see who will win a seat or spot in the government, and 30% of the voters support a particular party, another 30%, and then 30% of the seats in the government will be won by that party. Okay? That's the way to think about proportional representation. Here are some takeaways. Consensus requires society to value and prioritize collaboration and communication. All voices are heard. You can't be anonymous. It can take a while to make a decision. A majority rule requires societies to be responsible for learning about the issues and the candidates or the parties if it's a representative democracy. Everyone can vote, but the majority is ultimately the group that gets their way. You can be anonymous about your position or vote. It can result in fairly fast decision making. Proportional representation requires societies to be responsible for learning about the issues and candidates. Everyone's votes counts toward their chunk of the outcome. It can be anonymous also, but it only applies to situations where a vote can result in multiple outcomes or multiple spots. All right. So your first thing you'll be doing is filling this out. You're not going to submit this, but I want you to write down some benefits and harms. You actually will be using them for your submission. So it's important you think about, how does this benefit the individual? How does this harm the individual? What ways is this good for the operation of society? What ways is it not good? All right, when you're done with that, you're going to move on to the Quizlet. So you'll practice that. You'll go to this link that we have here. Okay. Step 4. This is where your submission is going to really come in this week. And you're kind of collecting all your knowledge about democracy, autocracy, and oligarchy. The question is, what power structure does the United States use? Let's look at some pieces of evidence for different arguments. Let's provide, I'm going to provide instructions for the activity you'll submit to me. First, we remember democracy, republic, capitalism, socialism are all concepts that fit into the framework. You could have a republic. It could exist within a capitalist or socialist system. So democracy, that government can exist in those systems, and we've learned about these concepts. So you can revisit those to think about this. The second one is oligarchy. So we've learned that this is associated but not inherent, right? We know plutocracy, we know aristocracy, we know official or unofficial. Capitalism and communism could be oligarchical. And then autocracy. These are associated but not inherent concepts. So fascism, totalitarianism, tyranny, repression, authoritarian. We know about these concepts. Absolutism. So just remember that as we move forward. Which of the power structures, political, economic, and social, are part of the United States? So thinking about all those concepts, how do you break down the way we are organized in this country? Let me give you some things to think about. It's estimated that 70-80% of low-income workers will not be voting in the election. Meanwhile, the Koch brothers and other billionaires will be spending hundreds of millions to elect candidates representing the rich and the powerful. This is not a democracy. This is an oligarchy. Educate, organize, and get involved. From Bernie Sanders. Let's look at some other examples. Is this a democracy? So you're probably going to have to look at this on your own a little bit too. But the idea here is look at the system that is used for electing, right? For electing a president. Okay, you have to be a natural-born citizen. You need to be at least 35 years of age. You have to have been a U.S. resident for 14 years. You go through a primary and caucus. You go through all these stages. You go to a national convention. You do debating. You go through a general election. And then you also have to make sure that you not only get the popular vote, but the electoral college. So take a look through this and just think about that and how does that fit the model of democracy or not. Checks and balances. So in the United States, the U.S. Constitution says sets out of three distinct branches of national government, right? We have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches. So, in that way, power is balanced, and no one branch has more power than another. Is that a democratic thing? Is that oligarchical? Is that autocratic? And we know a little bit about those too, about how those people, right? Senators, House of Representatives, election of the president. So, the U.S. Constitution's first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, right? It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Another thing it says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Let's also look at this, the diversity gap in American politics. So, let's look at some of the demographics. 98% of people in office are white. 100%. Wait, what is it exactly? I'm trying to remember this. Okay, in the Congress, 82% white, 81% male. Here, historically, the president, right? So the only male president has been, black president has been Obama. All presidents have been male up to this point. Mostly white and male, you can see, looking at the Senate. You can also look at the House and see some of those numbers. So take some time to look over this. Also look at governors, okay? Look at all this. So you can look at the demographics a little bit. Think about that. Here's another one. Why Congress ignores Americans. Top 10% of wealth. Powerful elites versus ordinary Americans. How do the elites play a role in American politics? Elites have 30 times more wealth and donate 40 times more money. Congress votes one way its wealthy donors want, according to this source. Lower 90% by wealth, mean household is $32,000. Donated an estimate of $0.8 billion, okay, and influence over what Congress does, only 5%. I want you to check out this video, okay, and that will give you some ideas. And then, which of the power structures, political, economic, and social, are part of the United States? In what proportion? How do you know? Choose how you want to engage with and respond to that question. Look of options below. Look at the options below and choose one to create and submit. Make a pie chart including the different power structures found in the USA. Create a triangle. Place a dot where you think the USA belongs. You're not going to actually submit this, but I want you to take time to try to think about, use this as a way to look at how are things split up in the United States. Remember this diagram? So this might help you think about autocracy, oligarchy, and democracy. Here's a graphic organizer to help you. So is the United States more like a democracy because of what? More like an autocracy because of what? Or more like an oligarchy because of what? Try to fill out each of those fields and see in what ways is the United States like each of those things. Then, when you're done, you're going to submit this in the discussion post. You're going to complete the chart on the previous slide, write a paragraph of which power structure best fits the USA. Include examples and make sure to answer the following in your paragraph. So first, which system fits the USA most and why? What are the harms and benefits to this system in the USA? Address at least two of the following: safety and health, distribution of resources, perspectives and voice, interaction with others, and societal norms. So think about those things as you look at, just think about harms and benefits. Which system fits the most and why? And then how does that affect our safety and health? How resources are distributed, perspectives and voice, interaction with others, or societal norms. If you have questions, email me. Submit it in discussion post, please, or if that doesn't work, you can email it to me. I'm out of time. I'll talk later. Bye.